From common birds to newly discovered mammals, here are 8 animals you won't ever see in a zoo or aquarium. Some just might surprise you. Number 8. The Indri. In Madagascar, there is a lemur species known as the Indri, and all attempts to try and put them into captivity have failed. The Indri is one of the largest species of lemurs, and it can weigh between 6 to 10 kilograms. They are monogamous, live in small groups, and are famous for their black and white coat. It seems that no matter how accurate zoologists try to make the conditions, this critter can't take it, even though in this case it might be for its own good. It's sad for many reasons, not the least of which is that the Indri are a critically endangered species. Because of this, people tried to put them into captivity with the goal of breeding them so that their population numbers could rise back up, but all attempts have been unsuccessful. Other zoos around the world have tried to keep them. For example, in 1939, a group arrived to Paris, but they all died within a month. Like many animals in Madagascar, they are threatened by habitat destruction and slash-and-burn agriculture, as well as poaching. According to scientists, this is because of the Indri's eating habits and their specialized habitats. The Indri eat leaves at specific times, and those times are only known to the Indri. Furthermore, they don't like changes in their environment, so moving them from Madagascar to a new area and a new climate, let alone the journey to get there, is a recipe for disaster. The longest an Indri has been at a zoo before dying is 1 year. Number 7. The Pink Fairy Armadillo. Coming in at 4 inches long and having a unique shell that is vastly different from other armadillos, you'd think that the pink fairy armadillo would be easy to catch and keep in captivity, no problem. But you would be wrong. In fact, over the many attempts to bring this creature into captivity, few survive very long, and several have died just from trying to get from their native country of Argentina to the zoos around the world. The longest recorded stay of this armadillo in a zoo is 30 months, less than 3 years. A big reason for this is that biologists have realized that the pink fairy armadillo is actually an animal that feels stress quite often, especially when it comes to their environment. So there's no doubt that capturing one and then moving it across the world puts the animals under incredible stress, which, as we all should know by now, can kill you. Because of its sensitivity and low population numbers, there's little reason to believe you'll see them in a zoo anytime soon. Number 6. The Giraffe Weevil. Bugs are very popular at zoos, and getting rare species is always a plus for them to get more visitors, but you shouldn't expect the giraffe weevil to be in them anytime soon. The reason for this is simple. Like the Indri, the giraffe weevil is native to Madagascar, and they spend much of their entire lives on a single tree species, the giraffe beetle tree. They eat the leaves of this tree and nothing else. Because of this, it's hard for scientists to replicate what they need so that they can live in captivity. With such a selective choice of food, the only option is to try and bring the leaves from Madagascar to the zoo, which would be really expensive. While having a rare bug might be cool, I doubt it's worth the cost. Number 5. The Saola. In Vietnam and Laos, there is a creature so rare that it has only been scientifically documented in the wild 4 times, and there have only been 1 or 2 pictures taken of it, so don't be surprised to not see that many images of it in this video. The Saola is known as the Asian unicorn, and it's critically endangered because we honestly don't know how many of them there are out there. After all, they are very well camouflaged and hard to spot, so getting accurate data on them is nearly impossible. It was only discovered in 1992, making it the first large mammal new to science in over 50 years. Which brings us to the heart of the matter. We know almost nothing about them, let alone what it would take to raise them in captivity. We could feed them the wrong food, give them the wrong environment, or numerous other factors. It would be too big of a risk to try. Number 4. Swallows. Swallows are pretty familiar birds, found almost everywhere around the world. They are very unique and are one of the few species of bird that rarely ever land on the ground or in trees. In fact, the only times they aren't in the air is when they are very young and still in the nest or sleeping. Swallows would be tough to put into a zoo for the simple reason that confinement would restrict them heavily and would take a toll on their minds. These birds are known to get very stressed when captured, and so putting it in a zoo, even one with a big fly area with high netting, just wouldn't be enough. These guys are used to flying free all day long along cliffs and under bridges. There's no way to replicate that space. Further putting the nail into the coffin, swallows eat a lot. They eat several times per hour, so keeping them healthy and well-fed might be difficult. Number 3. The blobfish. The blobfish is actually a very unique specimen when it comes to the world we live in. The blobfish is a type of deep-sea fish that lives off the coast of Australia, New Zealand, and Tasmania. They live at depths between 600 and 1,200 meters, which has an incredible amount of pressure. In order to adapt when they aren't in those high-pressure areas, they actually transform, in a way, into a more jelly-like state, which is why it looks like a blob when it is on the surface. Under pressure, they are a solid fish, but when they are brought up to the surface, they look like a grumpy old man, which is why this fish has been voted the ugliest creature numerous times. Just catching a blobfish is really hard. No blobfish has ever been caught alive, which is the same for most deep-sea fish. So even if you could catch one, you would have to keep it within a container that exerts the same pressure they are used to, and then transfer it into an aquarium with similar pressures. We still haven't been able to replicate that, and a lot of fish would probably die before we were able to do this safely. Number 2. The blue whale. One of the biggest factors in determining what animals go into a zoo or aquarium is the question of size, and to that end, animals like the blue whale will never end up in a zoo or aquarium because they're just too big, just like other kinds of whales. Many people argue that orcas are too big to be kept in captivity as well. Even though they are, it doesn't mean it's a good idea. So how big is the blue whale? Well, the blue whale is in fact the biggest animal to have ever existed on Earth. Think about it. Out of the entire history of the planet, we have the privilege to live alongside the biggest animal ever. It can reach over 100 feet long, with some reports saying that they can reach 110 to 120 feet at max length. And in terms of weight, they weigh over 200 tons at times. That's a lot of girth for one animal. To put that into context for you, their tongues alone would be heavier than an elephant, which can weigh over 10,000 pounds. Their young can be around 8,000 pounds at birth, which goes to show that they are born into their size and only get bigger from there. So for a zoo or aquarium, having a blue whale in their facility would not only be impractical, it would be impossibly expensive. After all, these whales are comfortable swimming in the vast oceans. So to suddenly go from that big wide space to something cramped like an aquarium pen would be cruel. Just think of the sparrow. This is the argument for many large animals as well. Zoos want happy, healthy animals, and more they are moving towards education and conservation as well as making a profit. Having a gigantic sea animal in an aquarium would be practically impossible. Ironically, food wouldn't really be an issue here since they eat krill, but the rest? Just not worth it for anyone. Number 1. The great white shark. One of the most legendary animals on Earth today, you'd think zoos and aquariums would be doing all that they could to get a great white shark in within their tanks, especially since other sharks are part of various sea exhibits all over the world, even whale sharks, which are pretty big. But the fact of the matter is, the great white shark is one of the few animals on Earth that can literally not be contained, in the same line as the blue whale. How so? Well, it's a bit of a mystery, but what we do know is that a great white shark actually knows when it's in captivity, and because of that, when it's contained, it dies. Several zoos and aquariums have tried. In fact, the record as it stands right now for a great white shark living in captivity within a zoo is 16 days. That's it. And that record stood for some time until zoos and aquariums tried to get a little more creative in how they got their great whites. They tried raising one from birth, and it lasted 6 months before dying. They also captured a female great white and got it to last about 4 months, but then she died. The species needs to be in open waters. They travel miles and miles from coast to deep sea, and there is no way captivity can replicate this. The one that died in 16 days was at SeaWorld, and it was documented as not having eaten much while it was there, and it kept hitting itself against the glass. Here's another factor though. The great white shark is an apex predator in the oceans. Therefore, it hunts for its own food, and it eats a pretty wide variety. If it were an aquarium and given a set diet, that's not good for a shark like this. It needs to feel that it's at the top of the food chain, and it simply can't do that in a zoo. To learn more, be sure to check out my video on why there is no great white in an aquarium. But even if you could get beyond all that, sharks are protected species, so getting one and building an adequate environment would take hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, for something that would still put the animal at risk. Thanks for watching! What's your favorite animal you've seen at a zoo or a biopark? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye!